Good afternoon. Thanks to everybody for hanging in there to the very end. I want to thank the organizers again for inviting me to this conference and for putting together this very substantive and full 2 days, and hope that it is the first of many more that I think we need to continue to explore this history. I'm going to do a dramatic reading of an excerpt from Heart of the World, a play that I co-wrote and performed 25 years ago as a member of a traveling Jewish theater, at the time one of the oldest ensemble theaters in the country. And yes, I was the only Mennonite in the history of Jewish theater. A traveling Jewish theater wrote and performed its own plays employing sound, story, gesture, poetry, and silence, and exploring everything from ecstatic mysticism to Middle East politics to Christian-Jewish intermarriage. We sought connections where others saw separation, which is probably the reason why they accepted a Mennonite actor in their midst. Heart of the World premiered in San Francisco and toured all over the United States, including Eastern Mennonite University, Goshen, and Bethel colleges, as well as to Appalachia and Prague soon after the Velvet Revolution. The play was written collaboratively by Albert Greenberg, performer, Martha Bosing, director, and myself, performer. We wrote it together. The main characters are Joseph, a Jewish photographer, and Lydia, a translator of German poetry from Mennonite background. They are married and about to become parents. By the way, as an intermarried couple, Lydia and Joseph represent the norm, not the exception. At least half of American Jews are now intermarried. In the course of the play, as the couple sort through the practical questions of raising a child, are we going to do disposable diapers? They are inexorably drawn into deeper questions of cultural and religious identity. Who will this child be? Is the recurring question that propels Lydia and Joseph into the worlds of their ancestors and their personal memories. The scene I'm going to share with you is the climax of the play, in which the difficult history of Christians and Jews, and Mennonites and Jews in particular, erupts in their personal life. I should say that the themes of the play were autobiographical, as my co-writer and fellow performer Albert Greenberg is my husband and is Jewish, and I am Mennonite. However, the specific personal histories of the characters we portrayed were different from our own. This was important for us to create fictional characters. The story of Lydia's Uncle Heinrich, for example, is not mine. It's based on a true story told to me by my dear friend Jim Lichty, whose uncle was imprisoned in Dachau. And I have to just say this side note, one of the things that pulled me into this history that Jim talked to me about was he couldn't ask direct questions of his uncle, so the way he found out that he was a Nazi or that he had been part of that movement, he asked him what dates he was in Dachau, and the dates were after the war, and so that's how he knew that he was a prisoner of war and therefore had been a war criminal. A few things to help you understand what you'll be hearing, so just bear with me for a moment before I do the story, the excerpt. One of the central conceits of the play is that at various moments, Joseph and Lydia transform into archetypal characters, which we call the Mennonite ancestor and the Jewish ancestor, who speak directly to their descendants, Lydia and Joseph. We have the modern characters play the ancestors because their transformation into their forebears illustrates one of the central themes of the play. We all carry our ancestors inside us, whether we are conscious of it or not. Indeed, we theatricalize this by having the modern characters literally drawn upstage, as if by a powerful magnet, toward opposite sides of the stage where iron metal figures representing their ancestors stood. And you'll be hearing them do that. So just prior to the scene I will be reading, both Lydia and Joseph have been confronted by their ancestors who have reminded them of their traditions and the communities that they have abandoned. Or did their traditions and communities abandon them? That's one of the questions of the play. When Lydia and Joseph transform out of the ancestors and back into themselves again, they are sitting on opposite sides of the stage, near their ancestral figures, a literal and figurative gulf between them. Lydia voices the unspoken fear that they are both feeling. Perhaps we should not be having this baby. They look at each other silently as the lights fade out. End of Act 1. And now Act 2, Scene 1 from Heart of the World. Silence. The lights come up on Joseph and Lydia, still looking at each other. Lydia returns to her desk and continues her translation. Lydia. Die furchtbar verschweigende Schlucht. Joseph. What? Lydia. It's this terrifying silent chasm, die furchtbar verschweigende Schlucht, in which lovers fall. Joseph. Terrifying silent chasm. How does it go? Lydia. Immer wieder. Opfer der Liebe. No, not the German, the English. I'm translating it from the German. But what is the English? Lydia. Again, even if we know the countryside of love and the tiny churchyard with its names mourning and the chasm more and more silent, terrifying, into which the others dropped. We walk out together anyway. She crosses to Joseph and puts her hands on his shoulders. Beneath the ancient trees, we lie down again among the flowers and face the sky. Joseph. Say it one more time. Lydia. Again, Joseph. Again, Lydia. Even if we know the countryside of love, even if we know the countryside of love, and the tiny churchyard with its, that's so specific. There's nothing universal about a churchyard. Joseph, it's specifically Christian, Lydia. It's just a poem, Joseph. It's not a gospel. It goes beyond the churchyard. We walk out together anyway, beneath the ancient trees. We lie down again among the flowers and face the sky. Joseph, flowers. Yes, the flowers of Vilna, Vologda, of Minsk. That's why I have trouble with the churchyard. Lydia, now you're so Jewish. And to think I'm the one who had to drag you out of the closet. You know, you didn't tell me you were really Jewish until the second time we were together. And you're not really Christian. I am Christian, I claim that. How do you claim it, Lydia? I claim it in the churchyard with the names mourning, all the dead, the suffering. I've been there. I know that. Und die furchtbar verschweigende Schlucht. Are you going to make supper tonight? She goes back to her translations. Joseph. If you'll keep the German to yourself, I'll make supper tonight. Lydia, if I what? The German. Every day it's the German. I thought you liked German. You studied it in college. I like the poetry. I like your translations, but day in and day out to hear German over and over again. Is this a Jewish thing too? Is this a Jewish thing too? Is it because you're Jewish that it bothers you? Is it because it's Jewish that I'm Jewish that it bothers me? Not all Jews are offended by it. Some have gotten beyond it. Some actually enjoy it. What is the it you're talking about getting beyond, Lydia? Beyond hearing someone speak the German language in any context. Joseph, it's not in any context. It's day in and day out. Lydia, this is poetry. This is the beautiful part of German culture. Joseph, no, this is German. Lydia, this is not Deutschland über alles. This is not the SS. This is the beauty of it. This is what we can taste and eat and drink. And you'd better get used to it. When I take our child to visit Uncle Heinrich, he'll teach her the same nursery rhymes he taught me. Uncle Heinrich, great uncle, Tante Katrina, great aunt, Joseph. So our child is going to be related to this great aunt and great uncle? Lydia. Yes. Joseph. I'm just asking, I just want to know. Of course she will be related to this great aunt and this great uncle. Joseph, and you spent a lot of time with them in Germany, didn't you? Yes. When we were living in Dusseldorf, I spent every Christmas with them. We stopped going there when I was about 14 years old, so I don't really remember very much. I was a kid. That's okay. Most Germans don't remember very much. He circles around her, tightening the circle. I'll bet your great aunt and great uncle don't remember very much either, do they? I don't know. I never talked to them about it. You never talked to them about it? Well, they must have been pacifists during the war. Mennonites are pacifists, aren't they? They must have made enormous sacrifices. Some of them did. Some of them didn't. I know that for a fact, that some of them didn't. I thought you didn't know anything about this. All I know is rumors. I don't know facts. There were rumors about my uncle that my mother told me, and they were what her mother had told her, that he was just part of das Volk, that he just went along with everyone else because that's all you could do at the time. The rumor was that he joined the party, and that's all I know. I don't know what he did beyond that. It was a rumor. My mother always said, now, we don't know about this. She just insisted that it was rumor and that she didn't know, and that's all I know. Okay, you happy now? You feel better? You feel cleansed? My Uncle Heinrich was very kind. Was he? Yes. He'd probably like me, wouldn't he? Listen, Joseph, I want you to hear something. He'll probably be great with our kid, won't he? Yes. He was the only man who ever held me as a child. One of my favorite memories is going into their house at Christmas time and being brought into a room blazing with real candles on a tree, the room filled with excited children, brightly decorated presents, and pine wreaths like a lush forest, and Uncle Heinrich laughing, throwing me into the air, opening his arms wide as if to let me drop, and catching me, always catching me just in time. Ah, Joseph. Joseph. I had this memory, an incredible memory. It was Christmas. Joseph transforms into the Jewish ancestor. Or was it Easter? Who can remember these things? And the little Jewish cobbler who was one of the Lamed Vav, one of the 36, one of the just, one of the men of sorrow, was brought before the cathedral as his predecessors had been brought for countless generations. He stands on a stool. Barefoot, with two vast yellow discs sewn to the whiteness of his front and back, and wearing the obligatory pointed hat. To the strains of the Mass, and with great ceremony, O Dominus Sanctus Amanus, the Count of Toulouse administered the traditional blow to the face. The Jewish ancestor mimes the action and falls from the stool. Jewish ancestor. The hat rolled violently to the ground. In accordance with the ancient custom, the old cobbler stooped to pick it up and thanked the young count 3 times. He bows obsequiously. Merci. 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 3 weeks later, he was dead. He died of shame. And his son died in the Inquisition, and his son was sold into slavery, and his son died on the rack, and his son was dragged to death by a Mongol pony, and his son had lead poured into his eyes, his ears, his nose, his anus, 1 molten drop each day, and his son and his son and his son filled the Polish skies with smoke. It happens. They're just stories. Don't take it personally. The Jewish ancestor transforms back into Joseph, who re-enters the apartment wearing the hat of the Jewish ancestor, Lydia. I don't take it personally. Joseph, they were your ancestors who did this. Lydia, they're not my ancestors. Stop confusing my ancestors with some general history back there that affected you. Joseph, you Christians never identify with each other when you do something evil. It's always not you. Lydia, you see yourself as part of some great flood of history. I don't see myself like that. I am not my Uncle Heinrich. I am not whoever the Count of Toulouse was. Why should I identify with that? You know, it may surprise you, but a lot of Gentiles actually like Jews. Go into business with them, enter psychoanalysis with them, make love to them. Some of us even marry them. And why is it always about what my ancestors did to you? Oh, you're going to always play the victim. Oy vey, how we suffered. You grew up in a large house with 2 cars, a swimming pool, your own dark room, and you traveled all over the world. And now you're going to tell me about how much you suffered. Joseph, my family was successful in Warsaw too. And a lot of good that did them. But I'm sure the little Nazi in your family knows about that. Why don't you ask him? Lydia, you know it really hurts me when you talk about him like that. You make him into a monster. He called himself a Nazi, didn't he? What do you want me to call him? Look, Joseph, the saint of Dachau? Lydia grabs the hat off his head, crushes it, and throws it on the floor. Lydia, it's very hard when you start talking about them as though they're not people that I love. You're close to me and happen to love me, so you damn well better realize that you're connected and our child is connected to my Uncle Heinrich. It's ridiculous, I know. It's completely ridiculous. But I care about these people. I mean, I don't know if I'm really Christian. I don't identify with... Well, there are times when I long to sit in one of those plain white churches again, surrounded by people who know my name. Both Lydia and Joseph move as if in a dream to opposite sides of the stage toward their ancestral figures. She speaks in German, he in Yiddish. Lydia, erinnerst du dich an mich, Omi? Joseph, gedenkst du mir, Seda? Hast du mich vergessen? Hast du mich vergessen? Ich hab dich vermisst. Ich denk auf dir. Ich hab überall nach dir gesucht. Ich hab dir gesucht in alle Plätzen, aber ich dir nicht gefunden. Aber ich konnte dich nicht finden. Lydia takes the ancestor's bonnet and sings, Blessed be the tie that binds. Joseph takes the Jewish ancestor's hat and sings, Lomeralla zingen, Lomeralla zingen, Azamarol, Azamarol. Lydia, you left with nothing, right, Omi? Lechem es broi, bosim adogim, bekoma tamim. Lydia, you got on a ship and you went. Joseph, Oy zog shamir tatnu. And maybe all you had was what you were wearing. Bei der grosse Gewirrem, and you went. Es lechem a bucher. Maybe you gave birth on a ship. Und bei uns alle Kapzonim. And maybe you lost a daughter or a son on the way. Oy vey, Kapzonim. Maybe you buried them at sea. Is lechem a skoinkel. Maybe you arrived and there was no one there to meet you. Oidos is lechem. Lydia and Joseph transform into their ancestors, the Mennonite ancestor. And you go and you find the community. The Jewish ancestor sings and dances. Lomeralla singin', Azamarol, Azamarol. Mennonite ancestor. And maybe you stay. Maybe you marry and have a child. And then maybe your child grows up with green hills around her and corn. And maybe the house across from her is the house she raises her children in. And maybe the house right next to that is the house she goes to when she dies. Maybe she lives her whole life around this cornfield. And this is what she knows. The Mennonite ancestor transforms back into Lydia. Lydia. And my child, Omi, what will she know? Jewish ancestor. Oy vey kopzonim. Lydia. What if she likes Christmas? Jewish ancestor. Is matamim gahakta tsoris. The Jewish ancestor transforms back into Joseph. Lydia. What if she wants to be a Christian, Joseph? Then my grandfather was right. What? I am destroying the Jewish people. You really believe that, don't you? Yes. End of excerpt.